Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vaskatyade Shatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. It is always seen that when we start a new venture, a new effort, at that time we have to gather all our consciousness and our awareness into what is going to come. I very much liked how today one resident of our ashram approached me and said, I like to use this day, the 1st of January, for reflection about my life, where I am and where I wish to go and where I wish to move on to. So this is very important, that we take a little moment in our time, 1 or 2 moments even, to think a little bit about life. Where am I now and where do I wish to go in the future? Now I would like to suggest a certain approach which is bound to bring about a very, very different type of result. My thought is not so clear because I just have done so many other things. Let me again repeat myself. I would like to suggest an approach to starting into the new year, which is perhaps different than what you are accustomed to. When we think of the normal way of how we start an effort, how we start a year, we usually speak about dropping some old habits, and we discuss in our mind how we can accept new things, new customs, new activities, new programs, new projects. But I want to ask you sincerely, do you think that this is the only way to attain success in your life? That you add new things to your list of things to do, and that you throw out some old habits? Is it that simple? Have we not seen that the best intentions which are formulated at the beginning of the year are usually not followed through? I once heard that 25% of the New Year's resolutions are broken after 1 month, and 75% of the New Year's resolution are broken throughout the rest of the year. Adding things to the list does not always make us successful. In fact, it sometimes creates only more stress and more exhaustion. If you want to live a very vibrant and fulfilling new year, it may be better to choose an approach which I would like to introduce to you here. It is about, this approach is about creating the right type of circumstances. When we can create the right type of circumstances, the result which we want quickly comes on its own, automatically. Let me give you an example of how creating the right type of circumstances bring about the right results. Let me say, I wish to get up more earlier in the morning. Now I can approach this with a lot of willpower, that I somehow put the alarm clock on the desired time, and I buy a real loud alarm clock, and I really put it out of reach where I can't stop the alarm clock. But there is another much more successful approach to getting up at the right time. It is to go to bed earlier. When you go to bed earlier, your body rests better, and then when the time comes in the morning, you don't want to stay in bed any longer. You have been resting nicely, and now you are ready to take the day on. And so this creating the right circumstances, my dear devotees and my dear friends, is a much better approach to living your New Year's resolution successfully than to just take the other way and forcefully, by adding new things, try to become successful. I would like to now talk a little bit about creating the favorable circumstances that can make us grow nicely in our spiritual life. These circumstances are taken from the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Srimad Bhagavatam you find several prayers, but there is also a theme in the prayers which is repeating itself. In this theme, the devotees are asking Krishna for certain circumstances which can help them to grow their bhakti very nicely. I want to quote two devotees who pray for the right circumstances, and then when you understand these circumstances properly, I think you feel inspired to put these circumstances also in your life. The first devotee is Pariksit Maharaja. As you know very well, Pariksit Maharaja had been cursed to die within 7 days, but he was very fortunate. He went down to the bank of the river Ganga, and there he waited. There was an open invitation which he spoke out to the sadhus to come and be with him in these last 7 days and instruct him. And it so happened that many sadhus came, saints from all corners of the universe arrived, then the most special of them arrived. Shrutadev Goswami, who was dressed by the 4 directions only. He was naked. He was a fully self-realized soul. And he went into the assembly where the saints and the Emperor Pariksit were waiting, and everyone agreed he is the most qualified of all of us to instruct Pariksit Maharaj. So Pariksit Maharaj prayed some prayers. He said, I'm so happy, I'm fortunate. Normally saints don't come to kings like us because they feel we are too absorbed in material life, but you have come. And then he requested in a prayer the most favorable circumstances. I offer my obeisances to all of you, and I pray that if I should take my birth in the material world again, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna. I will have association with his devotees, and I pray that I will have friendly relationships with all living beings. Prabhupada comments here, Maharaj Pariksit was certainly going back to Godhead, but even if he were not to go back, he prayed for a pattern of life which is the most perfect way in the material world. Note this, a pattern of life which is most favorable for us in the material world. These are ideal circumstances for our bhakti. What was it he prayed for? Attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. Now, let me go to the second devotee whom I would like to speak about. His name is Shrutadev. He was a Brahmana who lived in Mathura. He was very disturbed that the evil king Kamsa ruled Mathura, and when he found out that Kamsa hated Krishna, he was even more disturbed. He did not appreciate to live in Mathura, but at the same time he had his full faith that according to scripture the Lord would come one day to Mathura. And so it happened. One day Lord Krishna traveled from Vrindavan to Mathura, and on that day when he arrived, he made a walk through the whole town, and in this walk he also met Shrutadev, and Shrutadev received him at his home, and he was a garland maker, a florist. He could make very nice flower decorations, so he was so happy to see Krishna because now he could worship Lord Krishna with his skill of making flowers. So he then gave him and Balaram exquisite garlands, and when he has given his best garlands, he was not satisfied. They were not nice enough, so he quickly made another garland just for Krishna. These other garlands he had offered earlier were prefabricated. They were there, but now he made sure to make a very certain garland, a special garland for Krishna with lotus flowers. And then when he had handed this garland to Krishna, garlanded Krishna, he said, "My dear Lord, I want to pray to you that you please give me unshakable devotion to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul. Further, I would like to say that I want to have friendship with Krishna's devotees. And finally, I request you that please give me transcendental compassion to all living beings. These three desires are really the same of desires as Pariksit Maharaja had said. He said, Pariksit said, I want to have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Shri Krishna. Shrutadev said, I want to have unshakable devotion. It's the same thing. Then I want to have association with devotees. And Shrutadev said, yes, association and friendship with the devotees. And then Pariksit Maharaj said, I wish to have friendly relations with all living beings. And Shrutadev said, I want to have compassion to all living beings. It's the same idea. My dear listeners, if you can make your life create circumstances in your life where you have these three things, you will see how your life will prosper, how these circumstances will create the best 2021. I request all of you to write these down on a piece of paper. I will give you now the verses, and maybe if there is some talented person there, he can put them into the chat box. The first verse is from Pariksit Maharaj, Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 16. Gaurahari, please write down. Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 16. And the second verse which I read to you, where Shrutadev asked the Lord for blessings, is Canto 10, Chapter 41, Text 51. Let us think for a moment, a little bit. What could it mean in the year 2021 to develop more attachment or to have more attachment to the Lord Shri Krishna? Think, do I have the second verse, says Tatiana. Yes, Tatiana. 10, 41, 51. Yes, here Gaurahari has put it. Yes. This increasing your attachment to Krishna, you should pray really for this. All the devotees have not just thought, I can just develop this feeling on my own. You need to pray to Krishna. Oh Krishna, please let me love you more. I'm now attached to so many things in this world. Please allow me to become attached to only you. Queen Kunti prays to Krishna, my dear Lord, my affection is like the river Ganga. Let it flow. Push away all the obstacles. Let it flow into the deep sea of your qualities. My dear devotees, attachment for Krishna is a gift which Krishna has to give us. So pray at the right address for this. Then Pariksit Maharaj wants to have friendship with devotees. That is very important. Somehow, in the year 2021, we should think of how we can have more association with the devotees. Some of you think that, oh no, there may be more lockdowns. How can I have association with the devotees of Krishna? But you can listen to the devotees, and you can also phone with them. That will help you to be in the right circumstances. And finally, the right circumstances, the last quality is to have friendly relationships with all living beings, or transcendental compassion to all. Yesterday we walked, or was it the day before yesterday? I walked with someone who visited us through the forest here, and he noted that I am greeting every one of the people who are walking in the forest. Now during the lockdown period, people know they have to go outside and get fresh air. So he said, "You're so friendly to everyone." And I said, "I was not always like this." Even one of my disciples said, "You are no longer chastising us and pointing out our faults." I said, that was one period, but now I like to encourage friendly relationships to all living entities. Sometimes help them more. In every one of us is an unloved child. That is, when we were children, we had our parents meant well, but they may not have had the time, or they may have sometimes in the name of education have been a little tough on our children mentality. We may have wanted to play, and that was difficult for us. So when you are hurt like this, you do keep this hurt in an unconscious way, even when you are growing up. And I can see really people walk through these times with that unloved child in the heart. I was just talking to one devotee, Ghanshyam Priya, and asked him, "What are your realizations during this year?" And he said, "I really see in the grown-up people this unloved child. You have to encourage them, and you have to give them your love, and if you do, only then they feel they can go on in their life." The devotee does this. He wants to have friendly and compassionate relationships to all living entities. He wants to help them, and he wants to uplift their life. And if you do that, you yourself become really blessed. I have seen when you as a person can give compassion and attention to others, Krishna gives it back to you 100,000 times. So these are the 3 favorable circumstances which will help us in the new year. Attachment and devotion to Krishna, association and friendship to his devotees, and finally, friendly or compassionate relationships to all living entity. Pray for this. Look in this direction. Try to develop these qualities, and then you create the favorable circumstances which you need in order to live a life full of love and full of inner strength. My dear devotees, this is a simple yet very profound New Year's message which I like to give you. Instead of thinking to increase your let us say, it's always good to increase the sadhana, but instead of thinking of adding and adding and adding and adding and still adding to the list because you have not yet reached the perfection, try to approach the year in a different way. Not in the way of adding things on your do list, but creating the circumstances from which all success, all inspiration, all spiritual strength will come forward. Just like a person who wishes to wake up earlier in the morning should create the circumstances, for instance, going to bed earlier, not eating so much in the evening, and so on. In the same way, create these 3 types of circumstances, and as a result, you will see how bhakti will come forward. I will ask Gaurahari now to make a note in the chat box so that we can all learn these 3 things. Unshakable devotion to Lord Krishna. That was the first thing. I don't see it. Maybe Gaurahari is not there. So then I will just repeat them for all of you and you can write them down. The 3 favorable, yes, here it is. Unshakable devotion to Krishna. Then friendship with his devotees. Internet has a magical dimension. Friendship with his devotees. And third is transcendental compassion to all living beings. These are the 3 magical good circumstances that will help you live a really spiritual life.